Certain young players for the Orlando Magic have drawn plenty of national attention this year. Paolo Banchero has run away with Rookie of the Year with historically rare production and an outstanding blend of power, athleticism, and skill. And Bol Bol has certainly gotten his fair share of love for growing into a very legit starter and unique highlight machine. But a good bit more quietly, Franz Wagner has been perhaps their best player and the standout from last year's loaded draft class, averaging an efficient 20 points per game with impressive playmaking and two-way impact. In fact, he's currently one of just 8 players ever to put up 20 a night on 59% true shooting at 21 or younger, joining a loaded list. He is very clearly a star in the making, a fundamentally winning basketball player, and long-term, an essential part of a Magic core that should be disgusting in a few years. Probably the most appealing part of Wagner's game is how well-rounded and versatile he is. He impacts the game in a wide variety of ways, but it starts with his stellar play out of the pick and roll. At 6'9", Wagner operates like a natural big guard when you give him a screen. He always moves at his own controlled pace, with the ability to trap defenders on his back and to quickly change pace to attack the rim. Wagner's also pretty skilled as a scorer in the paint. He has an absolutely lethal Euro step, one of the best in the league going either direction, and he does a nice job of finishing against length by shielding the ball from rim protectors and hitting his running hook high off the glass. He's not a great finisher overall because he's not a dynamic vertical athlete, and he definitely prefers to finish with his right hand from either side of the rim, and he can sometimes force it to try to finish with the right, but he makes an above average 66% of his shots at the rim. He also can beat big men playing too low with a floater. It's not a great shot for him as he's only hit about 39% in his career so far, but he's willing to take it and is decent at it, which is pretty essential for a pick and roll ball handler. So, as a downhill scorer with the screen, he's really quite good, and he scores with 70th percentile efficiency out of pick and roll despite his struggles as a pull-up jump shooter, which we'll get to later. But even with his impressive scoring production, what I love most about Franz's game out of the pick and roll is his playmaking. Franz is, first off, a really good technical passer. He's one of the more skilled bounce passers in the league and can fit the ball into tight windows for roll men, and he places lob passes very nicely. If there's a pass to be made to the roller, Franz can probably get it there. But his vision beyond the roll man is also outstanding, and he has a pretty remarkable ability at 6'9" to find weak side shooters out of pick and roll. This is an outstanding play. I think Franz sees Gary Harris in the corner here and has it in his mind that if he hits the paint, Fox will still be there for help and he can hit that pass. But his eyes never linger on Harris. He never tips the defense off. So he Euro steps through traffic, has 5 defenders keyed in on him, and everybody seems to be looking for him to take a floater or drop it off to Wendell Carter Jr. under the bucket, who he is still looking at the moment he delivers this beauty to the corner, which Fox doesn't realize is happening until it's over his head. That is a tremendous blend of vision, manipulation, and technical passing. Here, we see some awesome navigation of the pick and roll from him, splitting a double at 6'9" and leaving 2 elite defenders trailing the play, and the second he's out, he sees DiVincenzo in the middle of the floor offering some soft help on the drive, and he whips that thing over to Cole Anthony for a very clean look. And this one is nasty. He comes around this screen, completely mimics the motion of a floater, and zips this one over Bojan's head, but unfortunately the Magic are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league this year, so they just will not finish a highlight for my guy. And here's just one more beauty. Franz is great at lofting passes over and between defenders with enough pace to still hit shooters on time, and he does that really well here. One more unique trait of Wagner's that I really like is that he's very good at blending live dribbles into one-handed passes with his right or left hand, which gives him more flexibility and the defense a split second less to react. So he's a really skilled passer, is fundamentally unselfish, and he just has such good vision at his height that he has a lot more passes on the table than your average pick and roll ball handler. So the assist numbers here just do not do him justice. Franz is a really good passer, and he does a good job of protecting the ball as he averages just over 2 turnovers a game. The other greatest strength of Franz's offensive game is how good he is in the open floor as an 88th percentile transition scorer. As a ball handler, he's a 6'9" guy coming right at you, and he murders people with his Euro in transition. That's where it shines the most. He runs the floor well off ball too, and as a shooter, he gets more open looks in transition, and that's particularly valuable for him because of the nature of his shot. Wagner is a very solid shooter overall, about 36% from deep on the year, but with some clear strengths and weaknesses. Wagner makes 44% of his catch and shoot threes, which is great, but he makes under 26% of his pull-up threes, which is horrible. He's very good with a lot of space between him and defenders, making 42% of his wide open threes, but has not even attempted what NBA.com classifies as a very tightly covered three all year and has struggled a lot more than the typical good shooter with defenders near him. I attribute this to the fact that Franz dips the ball quite low on his shot and has a pretty slow release, so he needs space and time to get it off cleanly. So it's hard for him to shoot traditional pull-up jump shots, but he's a great step-back shooter, having made 53% of those this year because he can time the rhythm of his release with the creation of that space. He's especially great at that step back for mid-range, where he can manipulate defenders' tendency to do everything to take away the rim to get some really clean looks. So his limitations as a jump shooter do put a bit of a ceiling on his game, but he's still a really good pick-and-roll scorer without being a good pull-up jump shooter, and he's still a really effective off-ball player. If he's comfortably open, he's a high-level pure shooter. If people close out hard on him, he's plenty good attacking closeouts. And overall, he's an impressive instinctual cutter who will take advantage of defenders falling asleep. So, offensively, he's versatile, efficient, and makes the players around him better. Defensively, Franz is also quite good for a second-year guy. He's a 6'9" wing with a 7-foot wingspan who you can stick on guards comfortably. He plays with great effort, has really good feet, and is a tough guy to get by with some long arms to affect shooters. He can be a bit jumpy, and teams can exploit that, and he doesn't always navigate screens super well because he's a big body, but he generally does a pretty good job of recovering there. Overall, he's a versatile plus defender, and the Magic's team defense has been 8 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor, which is the best number on the team. So, the bottom line is that Franz is exactly the kind of wing every team should be dreaming of. A guy who can knock down open shots, who can defend multiple positions, and can run high volume pick and roll and get himself a bucket or feed those around him. Those are pretty much the key skill sets in modern basketball, and he's already demonstrating his winning impact. The Magic are 11 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor, by far the biggest number on the team. And in terms of his individual production, you remember that list we showed earlier? If we just add 3 assists per game to that criteria, the list is just 4 guys now. Michael Jordan, Trae Young, Zion Williamson, and Franz Wagner. And no, I do not think that he is on that level as a talent. And yes, efficiency around the league is the best it's ever been, but that's a pretty impressive spot to be. This dude is just going to help you win games for a long time. And I honestly do think he's been the best player from the 2021 class this year. I'd still take Cade and Mobley over him long term, but Cade's been hurt and Mobley isn't at Franz's level offensively right now. And compared to Scottie Barnes, I definitely take Franz. The gap in scoring ability is substantial, and I think Franz just fits more easily in more situations because of his complementary skill set and the fact that he can actually shoot the ball. And Jalen Green is very talented and has immense scoring potential, but he certainly doesn't have the sort of winning traits that Franz does right now. And that's not to rag on those guys. It's really rare to see a second-year guy who you could imagine sliding onto a contender and trusting them to play big-time minutes and have a significant all-around impact, but I honestly think Franz is that guy. So, keep an eye on this Orlando wing tandem, because I think Paolo will be an all-NBA guy, and I could easily see Franz being a top 20 to 25 guy in the league in terms of winning impact. I don't see a superstar ceiling because of his lack of elite athleticism and high-end pull-up jump shooting, but who cares? If he's your number 2, you are in really good shape. So please, Orlando, for once, don't mess this up, because you really have something. To those of you who have made it this far, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. If you did, the good news is there's plenty more Nerd Sesh content out there. You can follow us on TikTok at Nerd Sesh. That's where we do tons of trivia content and some shorter basketball analysis. Of course, subscribe to us here. We're trying to come out with more video breakdowns on the NBA. Follow us across social. Twitter is at nerd_sesh. Instagram is at nerdsesh. Check out our podcast that we do 1 to 2 of a week on the NBA and some trivia stuff. And you can check out Thrive Fantasy at the link in the description here or at the link in bio across any of our social channels there. You get better odds on parlays than you would at any traditional book. They will match your initial deposit up to $100, and you get some pretty insane promos as a newcomer that we will post about. Like, for example, today, you can include LeBron over half a point at even odds in any parlay, which is pretty damn good. So click on that link to check that out. And with that, as always, appreciate you guys. Peace.